Crimson Corner, brought to you by Soup Podcast. Today, myself, Adam Dwork, and Elliot Hicks interviewed Cody Robinson, who's an alum from IUP. Hope you enjoy.
All right, so we're here today with another episode of the Crimson Corner presented by Swoop Podcasts. My name is Elliot Hicks. With me is Adam Dwork, and today we're here interviewing an IUP alum, Cody Robinson. Cody, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so you graduated from IUP in which year again?
2015.
All right, so you've been out there in the workforce for a little bit. I guess first, just give the audience a brief introduction on basically who you are, what you did at IUP, and what you're doing now, and then we'll delve into some specifics.
Yeah, sure thing. So like you said, I'm Cody Robinson. I graduated IUP 2015 with a comm media major. And that, I transferred into IUP, so I didn't go there my entire college thing. So I transferred in, I had about 2 years to go. While I was there, I dove right in to a bunch of media stuff and kind of went from there.
You did do quite a bit of things at IUP. First, we'll start with basically what drew you to the university and the comm program, since you didn't start there. You told us before you actually started in a field that's quite different from communications and media.
True. I started my collegiate career basically in nursing, and I thought that would just be the way for me to go, and I lost interest in it. And I jumped over, I tried to fly planes for a little bit, did a collegiate professional pilot. I did that for about a year, and it also wasn't for me. What drew me originally to IUP was they had boasted like a game design element at first, and that interested me. When I got to IUP, it wasn't as strong. They hadn't developed it as much as they had said they did. So I moved over to something that IUP did more, which was video production. And there was a group there called the CMPR, which is basically a video house within the major. And they do all kinds of productions, and I just dove in and helped out there as much as I could.
Were there any favorite projects that come to your mind while you were at IUP?
What kind of got me started with the CMPR, and one of like the things that set me on the right path there was they did a segment. It was jointly a class and with the CMPR, and it was called Heritage Football. Basically, what it was like a full production, because you would take all these cameras and you'd go shoot high school football games around the area. And because we didn't have a switcher or a full production studio, anything like that, you'd have to go back and edit them all together. You'd have to do all this voiceover, you had to put everything. So you did the entire production from the camera work to the editing. And that's what really got me started before I even started the live productions with the CMPR. So we started doing the Heritage Football, and about 2 seasons into that, an opportunity arose to move over to live sports because previously IUP TV had done them, and there was an opportunity for the CMPR to get involved and kind of do them jointly. So what happened there was there was kind of a gap that they needed a director in the TD, and the CMPR had some people that were able to fill in for that. So we moved over and we got trained on some of their live studio equipment and their mobile equipment, which included a TriCaster at the time. So not actually in their studio, but we would set up mobile productions by like basically a fly pack scenario. We'd move them all out into production. And I know that I did a little bit of directing for basketball, did directing for IUP TV football, and also did a little bit of TV, but it was a really cool team element there. Like to have so many people from IUP TV and the CMPR get together and work together to make these productions was really cool. And it was kind of a mini universe of television production that helped me move up to where I am now, which I do it professionally.
Right, so you basically provided the segue onto what you're doing now. You're working with NEP, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, so when I was at IUP, we did a tour of the NEP facility, which is in Pittsburgh. Just kind of a tour, just to see what they have going on. And they had this apprenticeship program to train engineers. So it's not exactly what I did before at IUP. At IUP, I was an editor, and I was director and TV and stuff. But I liked setting up all the gear and all the equipment. I liked the behind the scenes aspect at more so than I did the producing at IUP. And this apprenticeship at NEP was really interested me. So after I graduated, I applied there, and on and off talking to their HR team and everything. And eventually I got accepted. And that was a 2-year program for me. And basically they just teach you from the ground up how to work on these mobile television environments and all the gear and all the jargon and everything it takes to do that. And after the 2-year apprenticeship program, I graduated from there and became a full staff engineer with NEP. And what that entails is me traveling around to different shows, different areas. I kind of traveled around before I settled down on one show. But our mobile production trailers are 53-foot trailers, and basically everything, it's a studio in a box. And that's basically what I do now. I set them up. I make sure all the computers are correct. I make sure that the production team that comes in, so they're separate from NEP. Each client provides their own production team. I make sure that they're happy, they know how to use their gear, and that they can do a clean show.
What would you say was your most memorable work working with NEP?
At NEP, so I've had a couple different ones, and they all kind of stemmed early this year, or late last year, I should say, so 2019. I was able to work with WTA Tennis on some remote engineering. We did some shows in Japan. We did some shows in China in October and September back then. And then I got pulled in to build a mobile production truck for Blizzard and for Overwatch League. And that was something that they had never done before. NEP had really never done before, which was to attempt an entire season of EGaming on the road. They had been doing the production for years, but out of a studio in California. And they decided that this was the season they wanted to take it. Want to take it on the road. So we built them a really custom production truck that it's different than like a regular sports production truck would be. And we built that, and then I was one of the engineers that got to travel with them, and it was really exciting until the quarantine kind of put a kibosh on that. But since then, I've moved to kind of engineering from home for Blizzard and Overwatch.
So that switch to e-gaming really worked out in your favor now that we've had this entire quarantine, like you mentioned, and everything like that. Before we get into that, though, just if you could talk a little bit about some of the differences between the live sports and the e-gaming. Obviously, some of them are pretty obvious, but just to give the audience a little bit of a clearer picture of how those broadcasts are really different from a production standpoint.
Yeah, so I guess one of the main differences would be that, like with traditional sports, you have a ton of traditional cameras, right? You have camera operators. They, just exactly how you would think it works. It works. With the e-gaming, we have, where let's say a football production would have, 10 to 20 system cameras. We have 4. We don't do a lot of real camera work, but to supplement that, we have 4 robotic cameras. We have 12 POV cameras. And we have what kind of the biggest difference are in-game cameras, right? So we have camera operators that are in one of our trucks instead of in the field, and they're operating computers and they're observing the game. And then we have 2 different directors that are, one cuts the in-game show and one cuts the overall show, which you don't really get with a traditional sport. You would just have one director cutting the show, because there's not 2 shows to cut. But with an e-gaming thing, and that scenario, there are multiple shows to cut. So that would be the main difference, which means you move more into technical IP engineering instead of equipment-based engineering.
You have had to move to the engineering from home with the quarantine now. What has that been like for you working? Of course, there's the natural connection with e-gaming, but how's the working from home role changed things for you?
So, I can't speak exactly to how Blizzard transitioned. That they did a whole thing that was kind of futuristic for the industry, but for me, it's just been a little bit different. I've been working at home doing more master control and a little bit of engineering. So that's not my typical setup. Usually I would do equipment engineering, but now I'm putting in advertisements into shows when a director calls for it. We use, I mean, it's kind of an interesting setup. It's, you kind of just listening on headset, it sounds like a traditional production environment, but everyone's at their house instead of in the truck. So that's not exactly what I'm used to. But it's been fun, and it's been a new challenge, but it's interesting, and I think that more industries will move this way now that it's been proven to work.
Could you get used to the whole working from home thing, or do you miss being out there in the field?
Uh, it's a little bit of both. I really do enjoy being home, but doing the whole traveling thing and working with so many smart people like face to face is something that I do miss a little bit.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching our interview with Cody Robinson on Crimson Corner, presented by Soup Podcast. See you next time.